Hey, how you doing?
Gobanwa.
And cameraman?
Cameraman hides behind the camera. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Now I want you to watch her.
Our topic today is role-playing games, not a problem. There's a wasteland of gnarled hills covered in trees and dried grass. Beneath these hills is the hidden mazes of Generat. It is rumored that within these mazes lives a mutated people. Once human, they are now unspeakably vicious. It is also known that there are wondrous treasures to be had in these mazes for those who are brave and clever enough to find them. Thus warned, shall ye enter? This is the opening of a role-playing game. Very simple. There can be any number of games being held anywhere in the world on any given day. This is all imaginary. That's the point of a role-playing game, to use your imagination. We've entered into this game that requires something that most people in today's society are lacking: creativity and imagination. Two of the biggest skills that today's youth are missing because of their search for better technology. Instant gratification has become the norm, and imaginary friends, role-playing games, creative play like Play-Doh, Legos, paper dolls even, all those interactive toys are dying or have died. When I was a child, I had an imaginary playmate. As time went on, my imaginary playmate became creative pastimes. I would play with my Legos and my Play-Doh, and I would make things and create things. I got my hands into things and kept myself busy, reading books and creating my own stories as well. These were great pastimes and used my imagination. During my high school years, I discovered the greatest thing, Dungeons and Dragons, a role-playing game that used dice, paper, and pencil. I played on several occasions with friends from school, and I loved the aspect of being able to slay dragons or tame them, and being able to be a warrior and fighter. I got to use my imagination to create the world we were in. The Dungeon Master, or our DM as we put it, was our guide to the world. He would describe exactly what he wanted us to see, so we could imagine how he saw it. Together on weekends, holidays, anytime we had some free time, we played these games, and we had fun using our imagination and being together, and creating our characters. We did a lot of sketches and all sorts of coloring and made artwork to show who we were and our big, bold characters, so we knew what kind of armor and everything we had. We became dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans, and we would be fighters and priests and clerics of all kinds. But no matter how often we played the game, we knew that it was just a game. None of us tried to shoot each other with fireballs or tried to levitate and fly out the window. No. We knew that this was an imaginary world and not real. We kept our feet firmly planted on the ground and in the here and now, in the true reality. We had no desires to stay in our fantasy world. We came out. We learned things. We learned social interaction. We learned while playing these games how to help each other in collaboration, in sharing, and in taking turns and working together for a common goal. And these skills help improve our daily lives, being able to use them outside of the game. this kind of thing happening constantly. Our imaginary game of Dungeons and Dragons was coming under attack as being the cause, because these kids were playing D&D, so they were emulating it and trying to do the same thing in real life and getting lost in the game. Well, about the same time the movie Mazes and Monsters had come out on television, and it's talks about a group of college students playing a game called Mazes and Monsters, and it's a D&D type kind of game. And they decided to move the game into a different venue. They took it to a local tavern and became what they call a live action role play, or a LARP for short. And it made the game more interesting for them. One of the players, prior to starting the game, had his brother run away from home, and he had given his brother the money to leave home. And because of this, he blamed himself for his brother's absence, and he had guilt over the situation, and he felt a loss. He grieved over this. But he slipped into the fantasy world of Mazes and Monsters, and that became his reality. He dealt with his loss and tried to cope with his guilt in that manner. He is going on a quest in this movie to try and find his brother. And in the end, this is how he finds his brother, is not in this tower, that he is actually in his own mind. He's not in reality. Tom Hanks played Robin, the boy who lost touch with reality. And this was the same time that players were becoming more and more frequent, that they were losing touch with the reality and causing harm to themselves as well as others, because they were in their fantasy world during the time that they should have been in their reality. Now, let me point out that Robbie, his character, was mentally unstable before playing the game, and that the game, he had previous problems with it before interfering with schoolwork. Now, the game was an outlet for Robbie to deal with his emotions and to deal with his problems, but because his reality was so bad, he wanted to stay in the alternate reality of the game, and so his mind took over and left him in that reality. In likelihood, if he didn't fall into the game, he would have created another kind of world for himself to cope with the loss and the guilt that he was feeling. And he possibly could have been in trouble. The game was better for him to be in because people could see what was going on. And it was better than his reality. So today, in 2014, I play with several guys on Saturdays at Atomic Comics, our local comic book shop, Ace for short. We don't play D&D, but we do play a similar game called Savage Worlds. And it's essentially the same game with a different set of rules. Specifically, we play Savage Worlds, a fantasy role-playing game that can be set in any number of universes. And most of the time, it's a modern game with a slight twist. We have a lot of fun, and we never stay in our fantasy world. We always come out and go home. We enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy being together. Now, people losing touch with reality, it's actually a disorder called psychotic depression, and it comes with hallucinations, delusions, and disruptive or disorderly thoughts that make it like getting into a book or a movie or a TV show, and you can get totally lost in that and be permanently in a secondary reality. You go into this alternate reality, and sometimes you flip between two realities, and other times you don't. And the flip could be caused by a word, a smell, a person, anything. But a lot of times what happens is people fall into these realities and don't come back out. But the disorder thrives on escapism. And that's why Dungeons and Dragons was pointed out as being one of the most likely to create this kind of happening. Now, media attention was brought to this disorder by Dungeons and Dragons being the most popular role-playing game of its time, and a new game at the time as well. Now, I've had the chance to talk with several DMs about their experiences, and one story that I'll share with you before I close is that my game master that I work with for Savage Worlds had a friend that he had met, and he had played D&D with him on many occasions. And they met up years later and talked, and everything seemed fine. And the next thing you know, he says, you know, I broke my leg a couple months ago. And my GM said, well, how did you manage that? He said, I was trying to perfect a flying spell, and I jumped off the second story of my house. And he says, but I think I'm going to put that aside for right now because I think I almost have the fireball spell mastered. This was a sure sign that he had lost touch with reality. This was a sure sign that this person had a disorder that he needed to get help with. And that this would be a detriment to anyone who was needing to stay focused on reality. Now, I want people to remember this story, and I want things to be kept firmly on the ground, and role-playing games can be kept firmly in reality without being in fantasy worlds. And I say this specifically speaking, not fact or fiction, but have you ever heard about the guys who are in the mental hospitals and they think they're Napoleon or George Washington? These guys have the exact same disorder. These guys are psychotic depression, or even worse. These are the people that need the help in getting into reality. And so I close in conclusion with this, and I hope that you can keep your feet firmly planted on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Thank you.
Witnessed by AJ
And my big ass sack of dice.
and the sack of dice. David and his little Gundam guy. Don't show off your Gundam guy. And Masako, who runs the store. And Shane. And of course, witnessed by the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger and Iron Man.
What about the summon skull up there, Wolverine?
And all sorts of other guys. But anyway, bye-bye.